For the sports lovers out there who like to get their gamble on, whether it be on the NBA games, NFL, Major League Soccer, even National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, even college sports, go to BetUS.com to make that bet. If you use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times, you get up to 125% of the sign-up bonus, which is up to $2,500. Another perk you can see, you can bet on the go, which means you can bet anytime, anywhere on your mobile device. You get fast payouts, so you can get your payouts immediately every single time. Do not have to wait. And you can do live betting when you can bet during the game, whether it's early or the best lines, you can do it all. So anyway, please sign up for BetUS.com. Use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times. You'll be able to do so, right? Check out BetUS.com, where the game begins. Welcome to today's very rare middle of the day edition of the Klown Hour podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Please check out our website at www.theklowntimes.net, as you see up here. All one word, no spaces. You can check me out on Facebook as well. So whether you're your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are and wherever you may be, you can find me there as well. Also, a couple more things. Speaking of that, please check out the merch at cafepress.com. Search for the Klown Times Sports. The link will be in the description on YouTube, so you can find the merchandise as well. So you get hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, mouse pads, you name it. It's all on cafepress.com. Again, search for the Klown Times Sports. You'll find it all there. Excuse me. Last but not least, please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I am over 440 subscribers right now. So again, I'm trying to reach my goal of getting over 1,000 subscribers by year's end, and I celebrate small victories as well, because that's what they say about the journey, right? You appreciate the journey when you get to your destination, wherever that destination is. Hopefully it's a great destination. So anyway, please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell button for the notification so you can know when you get more content from my channel, whether it be as guests or whatever. So you'll be glad you did, and I'll be glad you did. So anyway, let's just get started. The reason why having this early edition of the podcast today, actually early this morning, is because of what happened last night. And that is the bombshell, the mother of all bombshells in collegiate athletics, if not all of athletics, arguably. Southern Cal and UCLA making an announcement that not only they're exploring a move to the Big Ten, that they already had their membership applications approved to start as early as 2024 as Big Ten members. So when I first heard this news, I was thinking to myself, how the hell is that going to work from the logistics standpoint? Because we all know the Big Ten is primarily a Midwestern league, right? Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Illinois, Iowa, whatever, right? You know what they do. Wisconsin and Minnesota. That changed the calculus a little bit a few years ago when they added Maryland and Rutgers from the ACC and what was then the Big East, respectively. Well, actually, I think that the Big East actually dissolved and led to the formation of the American Athletic Conference. Excuse me. So that kind of changed that a little bit, but now the Big Ten has gone from primarily a Midwestern league to having tentacles out east to having stretched this other side of tentacles way out west. So with USC and UCLA. So basically, I'm not going to go into the inner workings of it. I don't get paid for that, to be honest with you. But check out Nicole Auerbach's good work on The Athletic and many others. I think Andy Staples has an article about that. I think Bruce Feldman has a couple articles on that. So please check their great work out if you want to know the inner workings of it. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to go into what I think is going to happen next. And this is going to be crazy. Let me tell you this. So basically, the first question is, it's a Pac-12 toast. And one word, in my humble opinion, yes. It's beyond toast. It's almost burnt toast at this point, because what you have now, you have and whenever you lose one or two of your biggest brands, right? It's bound to be crazy, like, because USC, UCLA, that's your LA market from the Pac-12. Really, outside of maybe Oregon and Washington, where you got probably pretty much the Portland and Seattle markets respectively, it's not the LA market. And it's not those brands, with all the respect to Oregon, Washington doing the damn thing. It's not UCLA and USC, especially not football. So that's gone. So if you're Washington, if you're Oregon, now what? What do you do? What do you do? So basically, at this point, you would think that not only those two schools, but other schools such as Cal, Stanford, both the Arizona schools, they have to be a self-preservation program. And if you're Utah and Colorado, you're thinking, I didn't leave out respective conferences to join this crap. So, everything's up in the air. So basically, the question now is, could those schools allow themselves to get poached, right? Does the Big 12 become aggressive? Or, well, first of all, could the Pac-12 get away with raiding the Big 12, getting some of the Texas schools, getting like a Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, whatever, or picking up, I've read this, I've heard this, maybe inviting Boise State and San Diego State to the fold. That wouldn't move the needle as far as I'm concerned. I think, and this is sad, I think the Pac-12, as I knew it, as we all know it, is toast. Again, I think it's burnt toast. I think it's gone. I think it's gone. So it doesn't matter to me what the hell the Pac-12 does. Is not going to make up for the losses, the huge losses of USC and UCLA. You don't replace brands. It's hard to replace big brands like that, and especially given what's all is out there now. I mean, again, Boise State, all due respect to Boise State, San Diego State, good, decent to very good football programs. Can't replace the LA markets, now vacant LA market. And speaking of Big 12, you the Big 12, you have to be sitting there licking your chops a little bit, because you just got Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU in the fold to attempt to make up the losses of Oklahoma and Texas. Again, remember I said earlier about you can't replace brands? Those four schools, especially UC, where I live in Cincinnati, here in Cincinnati, and all due respect, Cincinnati is a great football program. UCF is a sleeping giant in football. Houston is becoming more relevant in football again than Hogerson. And BYU is BYU. They have a national brand. But they're not Oklahoma and Texas. I'm sorry, they're just not. So the Big 12's kind of media clout, if you will, in terms of worth, in terms of, speaking in terms of like deal worth, like in terms of dollars, it's going to take a huge hit. Not as big as the Pac-12, but it's going to take a hit nonetheless. I think they'll be okay. But again, what I said earlier, you cannot, it's hard to replace brands that all lost. And again, UCF, UC, Houston, BYU are not Oklahoma and Texas. Altogether, they're not Oklahoma and Texas. So, but could the Big 12, having said all of that, could they go and poach the Arizona schools, expand their media footprint, to the Phoenix area, right? Could they, if they really think pie in the sky, could they go after Washington and Oregon? Or bring in Seattle and the Portland markets? Could they do that? They probably could if they wanted to. And if they do that, that would be very interesting, because now you have a wider footprint. And what UCLA and USC has showed us, logistics have been thrown out the window. Because again, UCLA and USC are going to join the Big Ten. They're going to join the Big Ten. That is as logistically as crazy as one could think, right? Imagine road games between, like a series between Maryland and USC, Rutgers and UCLA. How crazy is that going to be, right? But it is what it is. So, I mean, it's all, like, the dollar bill trumps common sense. That's what we all say. But yeah, so I think if the Big 12 does the poaching, they could get real aggressive, but it all depends on how the media contracts look like, because I think the Big 12s are up in 2025. So at least they have to wait maybe the year before to start negotiating with its partners, namely Fox, and I think a little ESPN as well. I think they're mostly a Fox property, the Big 10, the Big 12, that is. So last but not least, we got into two conferences, how will it affect what the hell is going to do, what does it mean for the Atlantic Coast Conference? The conference of my youth, the ACC. I don't want to sound doom and gloomy, which I have been all podcasts so far, to be sure. And I really don't want these words to come out of my mouth. I'm trying to keep these words in my mouth. I'm about to say, I think the ACC is a dead conference, Walter, because for two things. For one, they're stuck in this horrible, which we thought was a great media contract with ESPN to get the ACC network, which is working wonders for them, right? But that deal does not end until 2035. By that point, the SEC would have gone through the Southeast Conference, would have gone through another renegotiation with Oklahoma and Texas coming on board, which will net them buku, millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. The Big Ten will also go through a second round, hence the addition of USC and UCLA, and they will get buku, hundreds of millions of dollars. And by that time, who knows what the Big 12 will look like? I think they'll take a hit, again, because of loss of brands. And the Pac-12 may or may not be existing at that point. So basically, the ACC will find itself looking up to the two big bros, if you will, and the Big Ten and the SEC in terms of money. And by that time, who knows what the hell and I'll get to Notre Dame in a second, what they would do. So the ACC is at a huge monetary disadvantage, especially by the end of the contract, because who knows where those contracts would be at that point, how much they'd be worth, and how much further they'll be behind their counterparts in the SEC and the Big Ten. For example, Clemson, the bell cow of the ACC right now. I don't think they'll like having being tens of millions of dollars behind in-state rival South Carolina. I don't think Miami and Florida State will like being tens of millions of dollars behind Florida. I do not think that Georgia Tech will be the same behind Georgia. Louisville the same behind Kentucky, and so on and so forth. So the question is, how does the ACC stave off possible extension? Because this is going to be huge for Commissioner Jim Phillips. He's a Big Ten guy coming from Northwestern, was formerly the AD there. So he knows the culture, he knows the deal, he knows how to think outside the box, unlike previous Commissioner John Swofford. No disrespect to the Ninjas commish, but I didn't think he thought outside the box long enough, especially with negotiating bad deals with ESPN. So here's what I think Jim Phillips should do, and I'm sure he's already thinking about this. He's much smarter than me, not to mention much richer than me, to get paid enough to get paid so many millions of dollars and make these big decisions. I think he should take a page, and it sucks that he has to be reactive to what always happened around him. He has to take a page from Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren's playbook and just expand the footprint by a lot. Throwing travel logistics out the window. He has to go after Stanford and Cal. He has to go after Stanford and Cal. Because I know the Bay Area is not a bigger media market as LA, But it is what it does two things. It gives it, in addition to the West Coast, exposure for the ESPN for the West Coast, ACC, I should say, for the West Coast, bringing in like the viable Bay Area market. And more importantly, it reopens negotiations with ESPN. Maybe sweeten the pot quite a bit. Maybe have a better deal in terms of shortened deals, so they can allow itself to do reopen it like similar to the ACC, the SEC and the Big Ten. Maybe, I don't know if we do it for sure, but as far as the worth, but I think it's going to force ESPN to do something, and because again, you bring in a new media market, you bring in the Bay Area market. After all, we've seen that with not as much as Oklahoma, Texas joined the SEC, the Southern schools anyway, in my opinion, albeit Southwestern schools. But with UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten, we can all comfortably say travel logistics are completely out of the window. They're thrown way into the wind, throwing that cautionary tale way into the wind, because it's going to make the conference a lot more money. And that's what this is all about. Or in addition to Stanford and Cal, maybe take a swing at Oregon and Washington. Bring in the Portland and Seattle markets respectively to the ACC. Why the hell not? Oregon is a power. Like I said earlier, Cal and Stanford, that's the barrier, the Bay Area. Why not? I mean, if otherwise you're going to sit on your hands if you're Jim Phillips and watch the Big Ten go out of those four schools. So the ACC has to be aggressive. They have to be aggressive. And one last thing in this domino. What about Notre Dame? Notre Dame is the white whale that's the pretty girl at the ball, if you will, sitting, being a wallflower right now, watching everything that's going on. I think now it's a time for Notre Dame to consider throwing away this independence. They're leaving all this money on the table by being a wallflower, hanging on to their independence, hanging on to the tradition. Because what's going to happen is, with these super conferences now forming, Notre Dame is going to have a harder time, I should say. Because outside of the deal, they have the ACC right now, where they play 5 to 6 ACC opponents a year on average. Who the hell else are they going to get to fill out the rest of their schedule at this point? I mean, it's like maybe 5 more years down the line. I mean, the Big Ten is driven its inventory. The SEC is driven their inventory. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with the Big 12 and the Pac-12? And speaking of the Big 12, I got to mention they could also get these two schools, Utah and Colorado, get Colorado back into the Big 12. So that's always a possibility. Pair Utah back with BYU. But at any rate, where's Notre Dame going to go to fill out the schedule? Because again, those super conferences are going to make scheduling each other in their respective conferences a big priority, a bigger priority, because you want to see those teams more and more over maybe 3 or 4 year span. And obviously the division will be out of the way, so it's going to be rotation of opponents. So Notre Dame is going to have a harder time scheduling. And if you are Notre Dame, you also got to see watching and wonder what a bigger Big Ten and SEC would do in terms of running college football. Notre Dame's going to be an afterthought. And this ain't the 1960s and 70s and even the 80s where Notre Dame was practically king and college football was much different than it is now. So they're going to have to forego their independence, because they'll be stupid if they continue to leave money on the table just for the sake of saying we're independent. I mean, watch what you saw what BYU did. BYU is a national brand, and they were like, you know what? We can't afford to be losing. I mean, let's keep leaving money on the table. Let's just join with a Power 5. Now, I don't know how viable the Big 12 would be post Oklahoma and Texas, but a Power 5 is a Power 5 in terms of the amount of money made per year, and that's going to expand their brand too. So I don't know. Notre Dame is contractually obliged to join the ACC if they join the football conference at last until getting to the greater end of rights end in 2035. So here's what I think Jim Phillips needs to do, going back to the ACC. Convince Cal and Stanford to come. Notre Dame plays Stanford every. So you got that right going. Notre Dame may or may not have a harder time scheduling SC. We'll see how that goes. Because I think all these schools are going to play at least one or two cats out of conference. Maybe at the most two out of conference in this new age of college football going forward, this new frontier. So now they'll give Notre Dame at least Stanford everything. So that's what I would do if I was Jim Phillips. Convince those two schools first, Stanford and Cal, because the ACC has a big reputation similar to the Big Ten in terms of the academics. So that would be a perfect fit for the ACC as far as its culture. But you got to expand the footprint, and in Notre Dame, you got to join the conference growth, because the way I don't see, even if the college football playoff expands a bit, I don't see it benefiting Notre Dame. And since that, again, the Big Ten and the SEC now holds a lot of the cards. They both can swing big sticks, and they have a whole lot of power now. And the way it's going to boil down is this: I think it's going to end up eventually being the Big Two, the Power Two conference, similar to the AFC and the NFC. And one of those two leagues meet for the national championship. That's where all this shit is headed. So if I'm Notre Dame, if it's not with the ACC, hope and pray that the Big Ten can pay a lot of money to get out that grant of rights. But again, how grant of rights work is whatever money you make up until 2035, it belongs to the ACC. So I don't know how you could challenge that in court. I don't know if Notre Dame wants to go through those headaches. I know Notre Dame has a whole lot of money and a whole lot of push and pull and sway, but I don't know if anyone could challenge the grant of rights, media grant of rights as of yet. So in the meantime, I know Notre Dame, it will behoove your asses to join a conference. You're contractually obligated to join the ACC. But for that to happen, Jim Phillips, you have to go out and get Cal and Stanford. Otherwise, the ACC is only a matter of time. It's not a matter of if it's about when that the ACC would eventually die off, as we know it. As for terms of prestige and money and all that stuff, maybe as a conference. So that's pretty much it, guys. This is some crazy ass times in collegiate athletics, man. I mean, I kind of saw this coming, but I didn't think it would happen until years and years down the line, like a super league where 48 to 50 some odd schools be playing big boy football away from the NCAA having their own thing going. I didn't think it happened this damn quickly. So first, Oklahoma, Texas, a year ago, announced their intention to split, or was it 2 years ago, to split from the Big 12 to the SEC. And now, two West Coast schools, USC and UCLA, joining the Big Ten as early as 2024 is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, like I said earlier, this is not your dad's or it's not mine as a child from my childhood. This is not the college football that I knew and loved. And it's sad. But again, collegiate athletics is turning professional with all these media contracts with the NILs, which I'm all for the NILs. I mean, these young men and women should be getting paid a long time, to be honest with you. But it's really changed the sport at a much quicker pace than we all could ever imagine. So it remains to see what the ACC does. It remains to be seen what the Big 12 does. And if the Pac-12 can stave off extension any length of time. I doubt it, but there's some crazy ass times in collegiate sports. So, but anyway, hope y'all like that. Again, this is my first solo podcast because I had to get some stuff off my chest because this move from UCLA and USC to the Big Ten, it compelled me to say something. I couldn't sit on what I was feeling much longer. So anyway, hope y'all enjoyed the podcast. Please continue to comment, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Please check out the website, www.theklowntimes.net. I hadn't updated in a while. I would say that, but I'm gonna write some stuff this afternoon. Maybe some more thoughts on the big move to the Big Ten. Maybe write some of the NBA regarding Kevin Durant's pending the trade requests and crazy NBA free agency moves. But check me out there. Also, go to cafepress.com to get the merch. Search for the Klown Time Sports, and you find the gear there as well. So unless anything else crazy happens in collegiate sports, y'all take care. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Don't drink too much. Don't eat too much. We're out here.